Welcome to the podcast of Tina Screaming and Me Not. I'm Mary.
I'm Tina.
And we're doing this for reasons we don't understand. Actually, I bribed Tina. I made her a really pretty folder.
I'm chained to the chair, so I can't leave.
Yeah, it's actually really unfortunate. So anyway, this is the Book to Movies podcast because neither of us bothered to think up a better title. And mainly we were just interested in the fact that there are all these books that keep getting made into movies. And we thought we'd talk. Both of us like reading books and then complaining about books and then watching movies and complaining about movies.
We both like complaining, basically.
Yeah. And we figured,
about anything.
Yeah, essentially. This just makes us focus on one thing or another. So we decided we were going to do this. Our first book we chose is pretty topical because we both just read it and we're both pretty into the show Hannibal right now. And everyone seems to be in the show Hannibal right now. Into, not in. So we thought we'd talk about Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. And then associated movies that we're going to talk about are Manhunter and just the Red Dragon movie. Yeah, with Anthony Hopkins. And that's actually the first thing I saw. I saw the movies first, like ages ago.
Yeah, me too.
The Anthony Hopkins one. Those are the ones I saw. I didn't see Manhunter until we decided to do this.
Right. But I didn't know that it existed until we decided to do this.
Yeah.
But yay, Netflix.
Yay! Yeah. Good for that. And random DVDs I got when I used to work at that video store. But anyway, so we both read Red Dragon. And so I guess, I don't know why, but I have this constant assumption that if I've seen a movie or an adaptation first, that the book is going to suck. And I didn't think this sucked.
No, I liked it. And I kind of thought it would suck too, because I think I assumed that really movies that were based off of really popular books will generally not be very good, or they'll be very different and I'll just be set in, that's not what's supposed to happen. Yeah. Or I also get this weird, this actor has to, be this character, and then I'll think, if the description's different, then it just ruins it for me. So if the Hannibal description didn't seem like Anthony Hopkins, then I felt like, that would, and I wouldn't enjoy it. But I did end up enjoying it overall.
Yeah.
It's very 1980s.
Yes.
Or Thomas Harris?
Thomas Harris.
The fuck wrote this?
Yeah, because I think, like you were saying, and I think maybe because we've seen... before we read the book, it was like, okay, well, there's different versions of Hannibal, so it wasn't quite as scary. Because I guess the thing is, too, when you watch a lot of movies based on books, they change stuff like crazy. So, I know The Shining, the one that everyone knows with Jack Nicholson is apparently vastly different from the book, which is one that we might talk about eventually. So it's like, I think I was going to I've seen Red Dragon, the movie, and then I've seen this show, which has been remixing Red Dragon, fantastically. I'm going to read the book and just be like, what the fuck is this crap? And just sort of be really weird. But overall, I thought Red Dragon, the book, it was interesting. I thought that the way the male characters were done were interesting. Dollarhide was interesting. Will Graham was interesting. Hannibal Lecter writing Pretty Little Notes in the Cell was interesting. But yet the women were not. The
women were not good. No. Which also made me curious about what Silence of the Lambs would be like, because I knew that Clarice was such a, the main character of that book, and also then Hannibal, and I thought that they would be awful because he's so terrible at writing women, and it's just really awkward, the women in Red Dragon, but they actually were good, so yay! Thomas Harris improving
you got better.
On things.
Yeah, because you told me,
they're still a little bit awkward, but anyway, we won't talk about those. The weird things about Red Dragon. Yeah,
so the two primary female characters are Molly and Reba. Okay, so when we were looking up stuff for this, we kind of felt weird because we just kept pulling sex scenes, and we're like, we're gonna sound really...
like perverts.
Yeah.
Yay!
But that's where all the weirdness really comes from, and it's kind of funny because I think we're also watching The Fall right now, and Tina and I, and we kind of see a similar... This is gonna sound awful, but it's like I feel like when men write, progressive women, there's this weird way that they do it.
They make them really overly casual about sex.
Yeah,
and it happens in that. It happened in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo with the
Erica.
And it's just weird, and it's a recurring theme that both of us have noticed, and that's something that I mean, both of these characters are fairly minor characters in Red Dragon. Reba and Molly, they show up only in, like, a handful of scenes. Mm-hmm. But every time they show up, it's really freaking weird and not normal, and no women talk and or think like that, or at least none that I've ever met.
No, me neither. And I mean, it's just sort of, I guess I appreciate the attempt for it, but it's just like have you met women, Thomas Harris? Like,
ever?
Yeah, and it's like, and specifically, like we were saying, it isn't sex scene, so there's like that whole phone sex scene with Molly and Will, and they're talking to each other, and it's just like, they're sort of talking about sex, and then, oh, well, we better not talk about it, because, you know, I'll be sad, or something
right.
weird.
Well, even when the guys are interacting with women, that's when the dialogue of the men fall apart too. Yeah. That's when their characterization like really gets fucked up and doesn't make any sense. And hopefully this is a rated R podcast, since I'm just going to swear all the time. And apparently we're just going to talk about weird sex scenes.
Yeah, endlessly.
But
girl with the dragon tattoo next time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we should do that one.
We could do that one.
Anyway, at one point, dear Molly, go to bed. And it's like, what the like, who talks like that? Like,
after
not
the
only
sex
have you
scene,
ever...
after, like, a kitchen painting discussion, too.
Right.
Dear Molly, and you're,
Yeah, it's just awkward and strange. And you're like, what the fuck were you thinking, Thomas Harris? Not only have you ever, like, met a woman, but have you ever, seen someone talk to one, even in, like, a movie or anything.
Yeah.
They had movies in the 80s. Like, he at some point had to have had or read or seen some kind of interaction with a human woman.
Because I think the thing was, too, is that we were supposed to get the impression that Will and Molly were friends. Like, in addition to being... Like, they had that respect for each other, but it just was so weird. And it's like... It wasn't quite... Like, with Reba was the one that really bothered me. I think you were more bothered by... Were you more bothered by Molly?
Yeah, I think so.
Whereas Reba, just because, again, that sex scene where, she and Dollarhide are doing it in Grandma's bed, and there's...
Was it? No, I don't... Was it Grandma's bed?
Oh, yeah,
because her teeth, I think, were on the nightstand.
Yeah, something like that.
Because I think that's a thing that happened.
This is actual dialogue. Come on, my God, man. That's so sweet. Now, I'm sure there was supposed to be different inflections opposed to, my God, man. But...
My God, man.
That's the only thing that came into my head.
Jolly good, man.
Jolly good. My word. It's just like, that's not... No.
Next, we're going to rewrite Red Dragon as a comedy, a parody of itself.
Yeah.
Really just the two sex scenes, because...
Pretty much. The rest of it I did enjoy. Like, I was... I wanted to know what was going to happen. The whole Freddie Lounds thing was really disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was freaked out by it.
Yeah. Freddie Lounds is an interesting... Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting change, and I guess it's weird. We're not talking about Hannibal, the TV show.
Yeah, it would be too hard to pull all that.
But it's interesting that they made Freddie Lounds a woman.
Yeah.
And actually, just since we keep talking about women, it's interesting that Hannibal, the TV show, has made very strong female characters because... As we've mentioned nonstop, the female characters that Thomas Harris created are weird.
Yeah.
And
Reba McClane. Yeah, full names all the time.
Oh yeah, and at one point Miss Reba McClane.
Like, well, I know who she is.
Can I touch your face? ? Said Miss Reba McClane. Oh, is that her name? I haven't.
I forgot
I haven't
what you're
realized
talking
that
about.
200 pages in.
I thought maybe the tiger was requesting. Yeah. No, I agree with you actually with the Freddie Lounds thing, because he is such an unforgiving character in the book. You don't really like him at all. He's gross. And he doesn't get better when they transfer him into a woman. And
right.
I mean, if you want to talk about, like, a progressive female character, it is female Freddie Lounds, because she just doesn't fucking care.
Right, and they did progressive right, because she's progressive in a really straightforward, and she's like, really ambitious.
Yes, like, this is my career.
To
I'm
a fault, and to a unethical, like...
Yes, she doesn't care.
She doesn't care, and that's more, true than whatever the heck Thomas Harris wrote in 1981 that seemed correct to him.
Yeah. So aside from all of our complaining about the women, like we were saying, I like the men overall. I mean, it's written by us, so you'd hope they're written well. But I did, like, it was hard to dislike the book just because I did get annoyed by the women.
Right, and they weren't in it that much.
No.
And so it was, like, I would get taken, like, remove myself or whatever. I would kind of come out of the story when I was reading them, and that was a little bit distracting. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it's an interesting story and it's
Yeah.
an interesting plot, and so it keeps you kind of engaged.
Yeah.
And I think overall, you know, Will Graham's character is pretty interesting. The whole like empathy thing, and
Yeah.
you know, and I like that they don't really like give you too much about that. It's kind of just like they don't over explain his.
Yeah, you don't
yeah.
have someone like in the show, in the TV show, you have like, you know, Hannibal's there to explain it to us essentially. But yeah, in the book, we actually get Will Graham alone a lot because he goes to the houses by himself.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, you know, like when I read the book, I didn't really remember Edward Norton's. I just had Hugh Dancy.
Yeah.
I just had him in my head, and I think this was interesting because I think I almost liked the guy in the book better.
Than Hugh Dancy?
Maybe a little bit.
It's very different.
Yeah.
I mean, in the books, it's an interesting, like, to see how he reacts to crime scenes, and because you get all of that alone, and the crime scenes are kind of horrific, and
the descriptive writing is good. Like, that was why I brought up Freddie Lowndes before, because like the description behind like his kidnapping is really unnerving. Like, you know, all that, like when he's trapped in the house with Dollarhide and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Dollarhide's a very creepy character. The whole, like, the dragon thing, and then the descriptions of his tattoos, and you can really, like, visualize all of that.
Yeah.
And it's very alarming. And even the crime scenes, again, are just really alarming, like, and creepy and weird. And the details of the fact that he has the children lined up in the bedrooms with like glass pieces in their eyes, and
then he puts them back.
And then he puts them back in bed. And they never really, I don't think, explained why he puts them back in their beds.
I don't think so. I think it's just supposed to, I mean, maybe they did at some point, but I think it's supposed to be that whole like trauma when you're a kid, like you put the kids back to bed. You know, I think it was supposed to be linked to that. There's probably some specific reason that we're both forgetting, so someone can tell us. But yeah, and I think the thing is, too, I didn't hate Dollarhide.
No, and I don't think you're supposed to, because he's one of the serial killers that has, like, the tragic backstory.
Yes,
like,
which of course, but even then, it's still, like you said, the grandma's dentures still being sitting around. Like, I don't like teeth anyway, so I'm just like, oh, God, gross.
Yeah.
But I think,
but he also has a lot of regret, later on in the book, towards the end of the book, he doesn't want to hurt Reba, and he's kind of like fighting, so to speak, with the dragon, trying to gain, I guess, the power back or whatever it is that I don't really know.
To kind of release himself from the power of the dragon. It's like he realizes this isn't what he wants, and I mean, I think it would have been really easy to make that a hateable character. And it's just, and he isn't, and it's, you kind of root for him at certain points. You're like, come on, like you can maybe not be this creepy all the time. But then he does stuff like kills Reba's suitor, dear Randy.
Well,
and you're like, okay.
And uses him to, I think what was really interesting is I didn't really see that coming, mainly because you kind of just see him as such a, like, not straightforward, but he's so, like, deranged that I didn't really see him, like, plotting his death and then, like, escaping to go try to, like, hunt down Will Graham and his family. It kind of even seemed a little bit out of character to me. Yeah. Just because he was so focused on the dragon's mission, and that was kind of just, like, that was Hannibal's mission. That was, you know, what Hannibal wanted him to do, and it never really... I guess even the fact that he was contacting Hannibal, because it just seemed like he was so in his own head with the whole dragon thing. It's interesting that he would have even been reaching out to Hannibal as a, I don't even know, mentor.
Hannibal's puppet.
Hannibal's puppet.
So you can maneuver him around behind the scenes. And I mean, and the usage of Hannibal's fat, especially like, because again, coming at this from Hannibal being the focus of so much. Because the first movie I saw was Silence of the Lambs, so it's all Hannibal, Right. Even if the story was about Buffalo Bill, it's Hannibal, and what Hannibal's going to do. It ends in Hannibal. And then you come to this book, and Hannibal's just kind of like goofing around in the background.
He's like, just kind of this amusing, like, side story or this amusing plot point. And you kind of wonder, too, like, when Thomas Harris wrote this, did he realize, like, wrote this first book, did he realize that Hannibal Lecter was going to be, like, this main focal point of the entire series? Yeah. Because he's not. I mean, and it's also interesting that he Will Graham's character kind of just, like, disappears after the first
Because that was my
book,
question to you, because I didn't know who Will Graham, until Red Dragon and stuff, and suddenly he was the focus of Hannibal the series, and I'm like, it's Will Graham, It's like, and then I think I asked you if he was even in Silence of the Lambs, the book, and you said no.
It's interesting, though, just because, like, Jack Crawford's character transfers over to the second book.
Oh, does he?
And it's Jack Crawford and Hannibal are the only two that kind of cross over, and it's interesting that those choices, like that he chose to drop Will and bring in Clarice, especially with his issues with writing women, and there are still, if we ever talk about Silence of the Lambs, there are still issues with her characterization, I should say, but better than
it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Should we start talking about the movies?
Yeah.
All right. So, movie 1, Manhunter. We were kind of avoiding talking about it earlier because neither of us liked that movie. No.
That was weird, and it had a lot of, like, fluorescent, bright blue.
The lighting choices were crap. Yeah. It's just like, okay, you live in, like, the blue porn palace, and I don't really know why. He lived in the green porn palace. It's based off Red Dragon, and it was every color but red. And also had nothing to do with Red Dragon. And can
we talk about, the fact that it was based off of Red Dragon, and there was one mention of the dragon.
Yeah.
And it didn't explain anything.
No.
And then they just changed the ending and changed everything about the whole dragon thing, which was the whole point of him killing.
Yeah, there was no connection to any of the characters. I did not, like, Will Graham was a freaking sad sack. Like, the most accurate scene with him is when he's standing in the rain, staring into the house, like, looking like a drowned, like, sad thing. Like, that was... That
was the only appropriate scene because it fit that characterization of Will Graham. It didn't fit any other characterization of Will Graham.
No, and
it was, like, just... He had no emotions.
No.
And... The whole point of Will Graham's character from the book and from, well, it should have been the movies, is his empathy and his connection.
Yeah.
And he should be over-emotional, if anything.
And, like, I understand the desire to try and play him as purposely removed so he doesn't get so emotionally involved. But then when that particular version of Will Graham, like, got emotional, like, I'm gonna catch you, son of a... I'm just like, stop it. Take that jacket off, because it's made out of carpeting. And just don't.
It was just awkward and weird and uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, and he was weird. That version of Hannibal, I'm kind of avoiding saying actor names just in case I say something dumb. That version of Hannibal Lecter, number one, the name was spelled wrong, and I don't know why.
That was weird. It was spelled with a K.
Yeah.
We also were watching with subtitles on, so we saw Lecter's name spelled wrong every other minute. But it was not only on the subtitles, there was also a couple news...
Yeah, in headlines and things like that.
Where it was actually spelled with a K for no reason at all.
Yeah.
They also randomly changed Alan Bloom's name to Sidney Bloom.
Yeah, it was weird. And Dollarhide was spelled like dollar.
Dollar.
And it's like, okay. And it was just sort of, and all the stuff with Dollarhide was a waste. Like, it was just, he's thrown in at the end, none of it, there's no context to it. Like, within the context of the film itself, it has so little meaning that it's, and like all the stuff with Reba, and I mean, it was weird, and he was weird, and it's just, and then all the music. What was the actual subtitle at one point?
I'm sorry. The music was great.
The music pop music.
The music was the only good thing about the movie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, yeah. But it was like, all in context. Like, if you just handed me that CD and you're like, hey, Mary, jam, I'd be like, thanks, Tina. You're the best friend that's ever been. But to, like, the soundtrack of this movie, no. Like,
yeah, the whole...
I mean, I guess it went with, like, the rave sort of lighting for everything, but...
Yeah, it was very, very 80s, very... Yeah, the whole Dollarhide-Reba relationship was kind of just thrown in as an afterthought.
Yeah.
Really, the whole Dollarhide character was thrown in as an afterthought.
He really was, and it wasn't thought out.
Yeah, which is not how the book is at all.
No, there's so much.
Character, and there's so much background and so much history of his character and his story and the whole reasoning behind the killings, which is the whole point of the book.
Yeah.
And the movie just, like, randomly, oh, yeah, and here's this killer, and, oh, yeah, he thinks he's a dragon, possibly, or he mentions a dragon once.
Yeah.
And then he has a weird relationship with a blind chick.
And his house is full of moon photography.
Yeah, the moon photography. Oh, my God, a giant wall-to-wall,
which he just walks through.
Floor-to-ceiling poster of the moon. For no reason except for that he's on a lunar cycle with his killings, and apparently they thought that was more important than the whole dragon connection
and the whole like we said, the nursing home and the grandma and all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
because the character's you are actually supposed to be slightly sympathetic to Dollarhide. It's like in the book you want him to like overcome it. Like you're like, maybe.
Well, yeah, and he has a sense of remorse, and he, tries to change at one point and tries to defeat the dragon, so to speak, and you have a lot more sympathy for him.
Yeah.
And also you have a lot more understanding of what's happening and why he's doing it. And in the movie, it's just not there at all.
No.
And, and then the whole reason they catch him in the book is very well, like, thought out and planned, and, the whole scene with Freddie Lowndes, and there's just so much thought that went into it that just went out the window.
Yeah.
Just so that Will Graham can, bust into a window and, like, fight and, like, have, like, a shooting and a fight scene and just, I don't know, maybe for more action.
I don't know.
It's like they just cut out a whole...
And that, now like we were saying, that part's so fast. And it's like, but the weird thing is that the style of the film, I think each scene that's slow lingers for reasons we don't know. And, like, the random... Number one, they cut out all of my fun, sort of pseudo-sex talks, which, whatever. But, like, then they do have that scene where they're supposed to...
Well, they added an awkward sex scene, though.
Yeah, so they did, and that's what... Like, the end of that is snapshotted. And I don't know why! It's like, I'm uncomfortable anyway. He's, like, licking her neck, or whatever the hell he was doing.
And her facial expression in that is priceless. And ridiculous. Also just, like... awful because the light,
I just conflated the two, but it was like that one where he's just, and you can see his tongue. This is the first one in the blue, and you can just see his tongue licking, and I'm like, that's so gross. And then you get to the second scene where she's inexplicably in a hotel room, and you don't really know how. Like,
where's the child at that point?
Where's the child? And why is their hotel room? You said it. You're like, why is their hotel room comprised entirely of windows? Aren't they hiding?
Ceiling windows,
and I'm like, I don't know. That one ended with like a snapshot, and I'm like, was there just a problem with the editing? And like, because there's a couple of things of editing in that too. Because there's a scene where he's talking to his son in the grocery store.
Oh yeah,
and they have like this meaningful look, and then suddenly, without them moving, they're in a separate section of the aisle.
Right? Yeah, because and then all of a sudden they were in front of cans
of peaches or something, and then the son's like, what kind of coffee do you like, Dad?
And I guess
like,
that shows you how bad the dialogue is, because we paid attention to the background of what they were, rather than what they were saying, because the acting was just...
Like, I wouldn't say the acting, like, I wouldn't peg that as a bad acting movie. I would just say it's a movie where the acting was like, you could ignore it. You could ignore them saying things.
I mean,
it wasn't
they were
like
just
you're
saying
wincing.
stuff.
It was just,
Yeah, it wasn't uncomfortable in terms of, like, that's such a bad actor, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
But just, like, where is your emotions?
Yeah.
Why are you emotionless?
Yeah, why are you just sort of staring? Well, like the whole tree scene where, like, he's just sort of moving through the woods, and then suddenly he's climbing a rope ladder, and suddenly he's in a tree.
I just will climb in a tree.
Talking to himself like he's, like, delivering a Shakespearean soliloquy, and you're just like, please get out of the tree. But a lot of weirdness, I guess. And like,
oh yeah, and Dollarhide's supposed to be 34. He's supposed to be kind of attractive. He's supposed to be very fit. This guy's kind of like a really tall, beanpole, thin guy.
With crazy
hair and not 34.
No, not at all.
Definitely not 34. And he has, like, zero... I mean, Dollarhide's supposed to be really awkward, but this guy just, like, is...
He was weird. And, like, the sets were weird because a lot of it felt like they just sort of really fast, like, cleared out a room that no one was using, and they're like, sit in here and pretend it's an office. Like, Chilton's office.
Completely white.
Completely white, and these weird lights, like, someone just, like, grabbed a desk lamp and threw it in there and, like, act. It was, like, super weird. And, the only thing I did, we noticed, because we are from Chicago, one of the, remember for Lowndes, the guy at the toll booth or whatever was filling out a Balmoral racetrack card. I think it was the only part of that movie I was just like, hey, look, I got excited about it, and then everything else, I'm like, oh, it's still going.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that that's what they decided to land on from that book, though. I think that's kind of...
Well, and it actually did start off pretty... Like, in terms of dialogue, it was actually pretty accurate.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't delivered well, but it was...
It was very, very accurate up until they introduced Dollarhide, in which case
which was
everything...
too late.
Which was too late, so it wasn't accurate in that, but everything else, the interaction with Will Graham and Jack Crawford and Molly and blah, 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 almost all of it. Like, a lot of it was just, like, taken word for word from the book, and then for that to completely, like, do a 180 and change completely once they introduced Dollarhide was very strange.
Yeah, and then, like, we're saying, like, whoa, and we forgot about the cop randomly when at the end of the movie, not like the very end, but like when they're going to go get Dollarhide in his random deco home in the middle of the woods, Graham's like, cut the lights, and he's in a cop car, so they turn off their headlights, but they're in this, like, forest, so this other car goes over, like, a small ravine, and he smacks his head into the windshield, but that never winds up mattering, and you're just like, why did that just happen?
No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets.
It's like, I think he's hurt real bad, and Will Graham's like, I'm going into the trees, and
I'm gonna jump through this window. Like, why did he jump through a window? I don't understand.
The door was too far away.
Yeah, I don't know. So we followed Manhunter up with watching...
Yeah, once we finished Manhunter, we're like, all right, well, let's just do Red Dragon, which is one that both of us had seen before. Tina saw it more recently than me.
Right, yeah, I watched it a long time ago. I remember I liked it when I first saw it, and then hadn't watched it in years. Read the book, watched the movie, forgot everything from both.
You did,
watched the movies again, and...
we might have had to remind ourselves.
Yeah, I like it better after having followed it up with Manhunter.
Well, it makes it look so freaking competent.
Yeah, it makes it look really, really good. I do think it's, a decent movie, especially given the fact that they kind of made it as a... This movie is really popular, being Silence of the Lambs, and let's bank on this, or let's add to it, and I think they did a good job. I mean, also, they have a lot of really good actors in it.
Yeah. Well, and you said,
a lot of good casting choices.
Anthony Hopkins, like we were saying, I just said I wasn't going to name actors, but screw it, Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins is the actor?
Anthony Hopkins!
Oh my god, he plays Hannibal?
No one's going to know that.
Spoilers!
But... like you said, he's made for this part. He's so good. And even in this one, they filmed... Red Dragon came out when? 2002. And that was the last one they did. They did Silence of the Lambs first, then Hannibal, and then they went back in time and did Red Dragon. So there's that scene where they're trying to make him look young, so they give him a ponytail.
It's
like,
super
stop
awkward.
That guy. Yeah, it's just like, no. I can't picture Hannibal Lecter with a ponytail anyway, so it's like, all right. But... the tone of it is just so much better. And he dances that line, because Hannibal Lecter is unnerving, because he's weird.
Yeah.
The one from Manhunter, he was comedic. Pretty good.
Yeah. He was the least annoying, or I don't know, I think him he did the best. I prefer Anthony Hopkins and/or...
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yes.
I probably just pronounced that wrong, sorry.
From Hannibal, the TV show, more, but... he did a good job.
We'll give Brian Cox the credit as well. Brian Cox played Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter.
Yeah. And I didn't
within that, like we were saying before, the problem with Manhunter was everything within the context of that movie didn't make a lot of sense. But within the context of that movie, he did a good job.
Yeah.
As Lecter.
Yes.
But in terms of being disturbing or engaging,
right, Anthony Hopkins
and Mikkelsen are much better.
Anthony Hopkins is just creepy. Like,
his eyes, man.
Even he's more creepy than Matt.
Than Mikkelsen,
It's Anthony Hopkins. I mean, he's just he does creepy really well.
Yeah, and with this movie again, I think that's probably is it the biggest deviation in this film? Just how much more Lecter we have. Or is that all?
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, like, because at the beginning of the movie Red Dragon.
Oh, well, we have him in the beginning, but otherwise I think he's in it.
Yeah.
The same amount. I think the biggest difference is the stuff with Dollarhide. I mean, in Red Dragon, the film Red Dragon, it's just a lot more accurate to the book with all of the Red Dragon and kind of like mythology or whatever characterization of Dollarhide, and it just fits so much better and just follows the book so much better.
Yeah, tonally, it's a much more accurate movie, and design-wise, because that house is really creepy.
Yeah.
All the sets are much better.
Yeah, the sets are a lot better.
And just like, all that nuance is there. I could have done without the nuance of Will Graham's hair.
Oh, yeah.
The frosted tips could have stayed in the 90s.
Yes, definitely in the 90s. Oh my god! It feels like it gets worse throughout the movie. I don't know if they just continually
they filmed it backwards.
Dyeing his hair. I don't know. I'm like, why is your hair bright blonde?
Yeah, and it's just like, and in certain shots,
his eyes look like really, really bright blue.
I think they oversaturate it to try and make him look tan because he doesn't look tan most of the time. And then Hannibal Lecter is like, "You look tan, Will," and Will's just like, "Not at all." It's like my version of tan, which is a light pink, And it's like, that doesn't work.
And maybe that's also why they just dyed his hair blonde.
Maybe, yeah.
If we whiten his hair...
his skin will look a bit like it's got color to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be quite as bad. Also, this one had much more that... Because, I like the character of Chilton, because he's such a freaking...
Oh, yeah.
And, in this movie, in the Red Dragon movie, that antagonism between Chilton and Lecter is there. And it's so... it's fun in that horrible way. Which was not in Manhunter.
No. And is that in the books? I can't remember.
Yeah, because he says a whole thing where... Because I remember the thing about, I think we'll take your toilet seat.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like... And he's doing it just to be a dick,
Yeah. And it's a great scene. Because... And that's one of the moments, because it's like, you don't like...
Chilton.
He's a jerk, and you don't really like him. And in that moment, you're kind of just like, I don't know, rooting for Hannibal.
Yeah, you are. Because it gives you more, again, insight into Hannibal, where it's like, obviously this guy's, because he's a cannibal, and he's just sort of been making people into fancy dishes.
Food.
Dip. But, yeah, dip. Oh, that's my favorite. And I forgot about that before when we were talking about the book, when they were talking about how they... Was it sodium pentothal or whatever?
I'm so glad they kept that in
They did, yeah. And just, he was under truth serum, and they tried to interview him, and he just wound up giving them a recipe for dip. And it's just so funny.
Yeah, I remember reading the book and thinking that was hilarious.
What the hell? Yeah.
Yeah. And glad, and actually I remember when Mary read the book and was telling me about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. And now this is no longer funny.
When I read books, if a funny moment happens, I totally ruin it for you. Because I'm like, hey, Tina, this funny thing happened. And then I take a picture of it and send it to you. And it's like, you're going to read this book anyway, but here's a moment you won't find as funny.
And she doesn't tell me spoilers. She just does it.
Yeah, I just send you weird moments that I think are amusing. And half the time it's like, why are you sending me this? But yeah, that was one of the moments I remember sharing. Because I'm just like, oh... Hannibal Lecter has dip recipes. But the Red Dragon movie is pretty good at sticking to the book.
Yeah.
Because it also includes the scene, because there's the whole thing with them burning down the nursing home, and they think that he's in it, and then he winds up going and attacking Will Graham's family, which does happen in the book.
Right.
I do think I remember the book being a bit long at that point, too. It's sort of like where, you shoot the monster, and then he just keeps coming and coming and coming. It's like, oh my gosh. But... to the credit of the movie, it did try.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, coming off of Manhunter, where it's just like, and then, we're done. Even the fact that they kept all of that, even if it wasn't stuff I thought was necessary. I mean, it's necessary, you know what I mean.
I guess, if they had cut that out, and that was the only thing that had cut out, I'd be okay with that, because again, it's like the, blah, surprise ending. Yeah. It feels a little unnecessary, Although, Will Graham does need to get stabbed in the face, so that has to happen. But he could have got, no, it doesn't. He could have got stabbed in the face, as he did in a last fight with Dollar Hyde. It didn't need
You mean when he got slashed across the face and had no facial expression whatsoever?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally what I'm like when I get stabbed
just
in the face.
Just a little bit of blood. But then had, a giant scar after that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And, went smashing into a refrigerator. Sorry,
I would have been okay with... the fight happening earlier, if that was the only change. It was just the fact that they changed everything in regards to Dollar Hyde that really kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
And really, it was like they tried to keep everything with his relationship with Reba, but then dropped everything about the dragon.
And his past.
And his past. And his relationship with Reba is less important than everything with the dragon. I mean, they're both kind of important, but...
She's important in the sense that we need to understand that there is a tragedy there, and you need to be able
and
to
then
think
he's
that
trying to, but they took that out anyway.
yeah, it's not necessary in
It's
Manhunter.
just he has a random relationship with a woman, and there's like no implications from it. You don't get anything from it, and so it's like it really wasn't important to keep in, and yet they did and took other stuff out, and it's kind of a weird choice.
Yeah, it just I'm not quite sure what they were going for, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what my reaction would have been if I hadn't, like, because that was something else we were trying to consider, was the fact that this was the first Hannibal Lecter movie after the book came out, because the book was out, 81, the movie was 86. So it's like, if you'd seen that and not had the whole history like we have now going into it, but it's just, I don't know how that would be a fulfilling movie in the sense of you don't know why, there's still no context.
Right. You don't, yeah. I'm not sure, what I would have thought. I mean, well, I would have not been born yet, but if I had seen it.
She spent the first, like, I wasn't born yet. And I was like, we have enough time apart, like, between each other where I'm like, yeah, I was. And, you know,
I was watching this when I was born.
Yeah, in the womb. Shut up.
That would explain a few things about why I'm so fucking crazy if that was what was happening while I was in the womb.
Just your mom's casually watching serial killer movies. The daughter will be fine.
Explains a lot now.
Don't worry about it. Your Criminal Minds marathon.
Yes.
You're trying to recapture that moment. But, yeah. I don't know, it's interesting. And I guess it's unfortunate because we do keep kicking back to the TV show, which...
Yeah.
I think it's... What I like about adaptations, anyway, is when the adaptation, it doesn't need to be exact. Like, I can admire something when it's exact. But there's also something when there's, like, you can tell there's an appreciation for the source material, and whatever's being done with it is interesting. And I think that's what the show, separate from... Like, the movies are good because... Or at least Red Dragon is good. I haven't read the other books. I don't know. Red Dragon, the film, is good because it does give that attention to the detail of the book. I don't know what the hell Manhunter was doing. But the TV show, with like the remixes and stuff, and how you can see direct lines given to other people and the transformations of characters and all that stuff, it's so fascinating. And like, that's a really awesome
It's
idea.
definitely one of the most unique adaptations of anything I've seen.
Yeah. But there's something very particular about this.
Yeah, it's a very, very different. They rewrite the whole story, and there's so much thought into how they're doing it.
Yeah.
And it's not because they think that, you know, oh, the book sucks, so we're going to make it better. But it's just like, they rewrite it in a way to like keep it fresh, keep it interesting, keep you on your toes, because you don't know what's going to happen.
And keep it as that unified whole still. Like, it's all functioning in a enclosed universe. And that's what makes it different from, like, Sherlock. Because Sherlock does that remix. And so does Elementary. Where, you know, they take those elements and they mix them up. But, you know, those stories were meant to be serial stories. This is something where they took a series of only, well, I think most people pretend that Hannibal Rising didn't happen. But, you know, it is an enclosed, particular space universe.
And it's more than just like, oh, this character was male, but now it's female. It's just so many differences.
Yeah.
That are so good. Even though I can appreciate like that, and I really liked the books too, and thought that the books were really well done.
Yeah.
With aside from the stuff that we ranted about earlier.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how they've done it, and that I can still enjoy it, being someone who, when I like something, I don't want it to change.
Yeah,
normally,
me too.
like
I tend to complain.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the only times where I'm like, I really like this, and I really like this, and I
want to see
different.
how it's gonna change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this was a fun one to start with, just because there was that span, and there's such a cool thing happening with it right now, and such a different kind of adaptation, which. It's kind of what we're going to try and go with for our next one. We decided on Emma, didn't we?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because Emma's got... okay, yeah. Well, this will be interesting, because I don't really like Jane Austen. I don't like reading Jane Austen very much. I throw fits.
I don't either, but I like her movies. All those movies that Jane Austen made.
Yeah, all those Jane Austen directed films. Yeah, she's a prolific filmmaker.
She's a great producer, filmmaker. She has a lot of great input. She does a lot of great movie scripts.
Yeah,
so I'm a big fan.
So I think we're going to read Emma, and I think we were going to do the Gwyneth Paltrow version. Maybe
Gwyneth Paltrow. There's also a BBC version that I really like that I want you to watch.
Do you think that one's better?
I think so. It's close to
maybe
the
that
book.
one.
And then there's obviously Clueless, which is why we're really doing it.
Yeah, so for sure it's Clueless. So
Yeah.
if anyone listens to this and has the desire to join us, we're definitely doing Clueless. So Emma, Clueless, and
Plus,
possibly...
I think it's a 20-year anniversary for Clueless.
It might be.
I just saw a BuzzFeed thing about it.
And I think Alicia Silverstone's doing kind of film in Chicago.
Oh, really?
So it's sort of topical.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Why not?
Why not?
It will be.
All right. Anything else to add?
Nope.
No. I'm really excited for Hannibal Season 3.
Me too. This summer.
Gillian Anderson.
Yay!
Yay! All right. Well, that is the end of our podcast. Maybe we'll have... We were saying we were going to try
I would thank you for listening, but I think you're probably insane for listening. I don't plan on ever listening to this, so...
I will have to because I have to edit it.
I'm trusting
we
that
made a lot of
Mary's
mistakes.
edited a lot of this out.
Next time we're going to try and have Manhunter style mellow synth pop music.
Oh yeah, we definitely failed on the music.
Yeah. We're like, should we have a theme song? And then we didn't actually think about it.
Well, let's have topical music, so we'll have to figure out what kind of music would be appropriate for either Clueless and or
synth
Emma
harps.
or, yeah. I mean, the 80s, we really, really fucked up on the no music for that.
Yeah,
we
that
had
was a
such
mistake.
Good
It was such an opportunity,
material
and we dropped it.
Yeah, we dropped the ball.
Oh well.
Oh well.
We won't next time. There will be synth harps. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.